Namaste. This little talk is about when religions create divisions and what to do about it. Religion is supposed to bring us closer to God, which should certainly uplift us and show us that we are all spiritual beings. In that way, we are united. This understanding could give us a central focus for general intentions of goodwill and cooperation. However, this is not how it has gone. This is mostly because each religion implies or come right out and says that it is the best or the only way to God. All others are inferior and should be ignored, dominated, pushed away, or even destroyed by force. In this way, one of the most difficult of all things to break down are the barriers between us that have been caused by our religions. A first-class religion is not the one that claims it is the highest religion. The first-class religion is that which simply teaches and trains one perfectly how to know and love God. That is first class, and in such a first-class religion, no one will claim to be better than any other. That is because he or she will naturally see that we all have the same Supreme Father. The only difference between any of us is in the level of spiritual understanding that we have, and how united we are in the Supreme Being. Otherwise, spiritually, we are all the same, and whatever our bodily situation may be is temporary. If you feel that your religion is the best of all others, it is natural to be loyal and appreciate what it has done for you. However, if you feel superior to others because of being, say, a Muslim or Christian or something else, then that is where your religion has failed. For you to feel that way means that it has provided you with incomplete knowledge. You have not made much spiritual advancement. If your religion has failed to bring you to the spiritual platform in which you can see the spiritual similarities between you and all other creatures, regardless of caste, creed, culture, or even species, then your religion has failed. Or you have failed to follow it properly or to its ultimate goal. It may have brought you to a path of being, say, pious, but it has not brought you to the point of true love of God and true spiritual vision. Real love of God includes the spiritual love for all others, without prejudice, bias, or condescending attitudes. If you have not attained this level, then you still have much progress to make, either in your own spiritual progress, or your own religion, or by adding the help of another, more complete source of spiritual knowledge. Those who are not understanding in this way and criticize different systems of religion due to jealousy, or envy, or malice, or a sense of superiority, are simply revealing themselves to be very immature. They do not cherish love toward their own God, but show more regard for vain quarrels and contentions between others. In Ashoka's edicts it is rightfully stated, never think or say your religion is the best, never denounce the religion of others, but honor in them whatever is worthy of honor. After all, what good is a religion which condemns everybody else's philosophy or symbols for God except its own? Some religions say that if God is represented in a form or beautiful or symbolic or is established in a deity, then it is heathen or superstition, so it is bad. But if God comes in the form of a dove or, say, a burning bush or a pillar of fire, oh, it is holy. But what's the difference? This is completely contradictory to the understanding of the omnipotent ability of the Supreme. God does not favor one sect or religion over another, but monitors one's sincerity, devotion, surrender, and willingness to help and love others. And God reciprocates with one to the same degree of his or her devotion and sincerity. God is not the kind of being who favors only one sect and allows all others to be damned. Everyone is a part of God, otherwise they would not be here. And he cares for all. In order to show his concern, God sends not just one, but as many messengers and representatives as it takes to help guide and deliver all beings from material existence. The essence of that message, and all genuine religion, is the same. You simply have to get deep enough to get to that core message. They all teach that we should not get stuck in material life, but to keep moving toward pure spiritual existence. The essential method in all religions by which this is accomplished is simple. Love God, love all others as parts of God, and act in that way at all times. The Supreme Being has made it very simple. It is only humanity that has created the confusion found in the divisions of religions. From this it is clear that God is the Lord of all beings, and in many ways God is also multifaceted, unlimited in knowledge, ability, character, and personality, of course. If a person is so narrow that he or she can hold allegiance to one faith while condemning all others, he or she will understand God only through that way. They will not know, nor will they be able to understand, that they can realize different aspects of God through other religions or spiritual paths. It is often seen that the most fundamental religions are the most limited in their understanding of God, and also carry with it the extra luggage of prejudice and condemnation of all other religions and cultures. It goes back to the principle that people who know the least about something are also the most fearful about what they do not understand. Only religionists who are inexperienced and not conversant with spiritual truth consider their ways as good and superior while hating the ways of all others. We also need to understand that there is no such thing as two supreme beings, or a God of one religion and a God of another. Such distinctions are made through ignorance. God is one. The absolute truth is one. So how can there be two religions? When followers of different religions quarrel about truth, it is a sign that they have yet to experience truth. Rather than seeking an experience of the truth, they spend their time in quarrels, nurturing their prejudices against others. They are still far away from God. The word religion comes from the Latin religio, which means to bind to God or connect with God. If a religion does not teach how to directly link with God, to love, respect, and have regard for all others as his parts and parcels, then it can hardly be called a religion. Once again, God is one. There cannot be two. If there is another, then there is competition. And the one God is neither Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or anything else. Such classifications relate only in the way God is worshipped. Real religion does not mean that we stamp this person a Christian or someone else a Muslim or a Hindu or a Jain, whatever. Such designations are names that have nothing to do with the reality of the soul. Unity between us will never be established by emphasizing such designations on the material platform. So if God is one, why should there be quarrels between those who worship the one God in different ways? There should be no such quarrels unless they think they are worshiping a different God and feel their God is superior to the God of others. Of course, such a mentality is simply childish. Religion means to understand God and to abide by his laws. It means to understand the nature of the soul, which is to love and be loved, and to serve the ultimate lovable object, which is, of course, the supreme lover, or God. In this way, every living being is a servant of the supreme being. The ultimate purpose of religion is to regain your love for God and to return to God. This means you rise above earthly desires and designations and transcend material life. This is the real unity and purpose of life that we all share. Based on this essential principle, we should all serve, understand, and love God. There is no difference. We may pursue different religions, but that is diversity in unity because we all should worship the same God. We may call him by different names, but he's still the same God. When we realize that, then there can be peace and harmony. It is a fact that all true religious paths can lead to God, but such deep experience is beyond the grasp of fundamental and materially motivated religions that are based on national or cultural traditions and feelings of superiority because of a race or geographical region. Such religions fail in their attempts to promote universal or spiritual brotherhood because they lack the spiritual knowledge and potency necessary to do so. Furthermore, because of this deficiency, they cannot give their followers the process that will enable them to become fully spiritually realized. So they remain biased against others because they cannot rise above the materialistic vision that causes them to focus on superficial differences, such as race, creed, cultural background, sex or dress or age or whatever. So how do we solve this problem that keeps people of different religions or cultures from accepting each other and working together? It is both easy and difficult. The easy part is to understand that the people merely have to be willing to share their spiritual knowledge with each other. They can all keep their own traditions, holidays, festivals, and rituals, but the essential knowledge and science of the individual souls, the supreme soul, and the relationship between them is what is important and what can be easily shared. This spiritual science is not explained more thoroughly than in the Vedic literature, as has been summarized in one of my previous books, which is called The Secret Teachings of the Vedas. In fact, comprehending this knowledge of the absolute truth is necessary for everyone's spiritual advancement, regardless of what spiritual process one is inclined to accept. There must be this kind of open and respectful exchange across global and cultural boundaries in order for peace and unity between all societies to exist. The hard part is to get people to agree to do this. That's why in many cases the one factor that creates more havoc and more disunity in the world is simply religion. But in some cases you have to look at other cultures and their philosophical systems to get answers that are not provided elsewhere. In fact, the Bible agrees with the idea of researching other scripture for answer. In 2 Timothy 3, verses 16 through 17, we find the following quote. It says, "All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished in all good works." End quote. Therefore, it is without a doubt that all Scripture everywhere is meant to uplift our consciousness. Such being the case, it is not contradictory to see similarities in various Scriptures and spiritual cultures, and it actually adds to and proves the glory of God amongst all nations. After all, God is the Lord of the isles of the sea, of the lands of the east, the lands of the west. He can send his messengers and give his word wherever it is needed. We should not think that one book or one Bible contains all his words, and we can all approach God to understand him. Just as the Bible also said in Romans 10, verses 12 through 13, "For there is no difference between the Jew or the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved." End quote. We herewith have the reasoning why all our petty quarrels, whether between Catholics and Protestants, Hindus and Muslims, nation and nation, are nothing more than a sign of our ignorance and animalistic tendencies which actually disqualify us from making any spiritual advancement. We may think we are a chosen people, but if we have no spiritual vision to see the unity between all people, then the promised land may be a lot farther away than we think. For God remembers all of us and indeed supplies all nations the knowledge by which they can spiritually advance and live peacefully, depending on their ability to understand and use it. After all, those who are sincerely trying to advance are all sons of God, as verified once again, if you want to use the Bible, in Romans 8:14, quote, "For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God." End quote. A similar statement is also in John, chapter 1, verse 12, "But as many as received him, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name." End quote. Thus we are all God's children, as also confirmed by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verses 17 through 18, where it says that he is the Father of the universe, the mother, the grandfather, the object of knowledge, the purifier, the sacred Om, and the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Vedas. He, speaking here as Lord Krishna, is the goal, the support, the master, the witness, the abode, and the most dear friend. Then Krishna also goes on to say in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 6, that he is the origin and dissolution of the entire universe. And also in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 35, "By knowing the truth, you will see that all beings are a part of him and belong to him." Thus, by understanding how we are all spiritually related, all sincere souls will find no difficulty in harmoniously working together and helping one another to understand the laws of the Supreme and advance accordingly, whether we are brother and brother or nation and nation. So if we are all spiritually related and can find similarities in the basic law of all religions, then what is the difficulty in cooperating with each other within the essential principles of all these religions? I'm talking about the essential principles, not necessarily the superficialities of it. And what is the essential principle we all are meant to follow? The essence of the law, as also found in the Vedic, the Judaic, the Christian, the Islamic, and other cultures, instructs us to surrender to God and work together to please Him according to His instructions. For example, when the Pharisees asked Jesus, which was the great commandment in the law? He told them, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And that's from Matthew 22, verses 37 and 38. But Lord Krishna taught the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, where he says, always think of me and become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me, thus you will come to me without fail. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. And that's from Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, verses 65 through 66. Unfortunately, before we reach this advanced stage, we are in the lower levels of understanding. And this immature level of love can take on the characteristics of a blind and fanatical allegiance to a particular process of religious expression rather than attachment to real love for God. In this situation, one may proudly and unnecessarily feel that he is on the highest path, and then will denounce every other process and culture without the proper spiritual understanding of himself or of others. This is nothing more than sentimentality and fanaticism. Real love of God, which also displays love for all living beings, will not develop within a person if he or she harbors such a divisive mentality. You must remember that people who show their love for their own religion by hating all others will spiritually stagnate and cause disharmony and quarrels between those of their religion and those of others. In other words, they become a great disturbance in the world. Someone may be a kind and generous and even devout person amongst those of his own culture, while ready to howl, insult, hate, and do injury to those of another. This is love of the lowest level, similar to the way a dog may love its master, and will show it by snarling at anyone else. Only those individuals and dry forms of religion that are bereft of real spiritual knowledge look at all others with hate and suspicion. Only when one's consciousness becomes mature does this form of fanaticism or immature enthusiasm subside. Then real love and respect for all will naturally emanate from that person. As one becomes closer to the all-loving Supreme Being by the development of his own love for God, no longer can he be an instrument of hatred or prejudice because he sees everyone equally with spiritual vision. Thus he walks away from the animalistic quarrels and wars that others take so seriously due to their ignorance of spiritual reality. We have to remember that we are in this world but not of it. We are all spiritual beings who are temporarily residing in the material creation. It is futile to try and make a permanent home here, or attempt to be fully content and happy by being absorbed in material pleasures. This world does not and never will offer that kind of accommodation. A spiritual being in the material world, which is what we all are, is like a fish out of water. It is an incompatible situation. So we must understand the reality of our circumstance, that we are all transients evolving in a temporary situation on our way from one point of existence to another, from hopefully what is a lower point to a higher point. So what is this life? It is nothing more than a moment on our great path towards full enlightenment. The world primarily is a field for activity which we can use to evolve to a higher state of being, and the body is the tool or vehicle in which we engage in those acts. But if we forget that, then we get caught in the illusion that this world is the cause and basis of our happiness, and our temporary body is the basis of our identity. Nothing can be further from the truth, and anyone with some proper understanding will see this. We should realize that there are only three things that are eternal. One is the Supreme Being, or God. Two, all the individual spiritual entities. And three, the relationship between them, which is based on divine love. This spiritual love is all that has to be reawakened. That is the purpose of religion. That is the purpose of any spiritual path. And this is the real goal of life. The spiritual strata, or fully enlightened consciousness, is where that love can manifest to the fullest degree. If somehow or other the people of the world could give up their superficial differences and join together in genuine spiritual activity, the consciousness of society in general could change to such a degree that this very planet could become spiritually surcharged. It is not that we have to work for a specific change to bring about solutions to the world's problems, but when the consciousness of the people becomes purified, the solutions to the problems will become obvious, and the necessary changes will automatically begin to manifest. The process starts from within. Entering the spiritual realm, or changing the world in which we presently live, is simply a matter of reawakening our dormant divine consciousness. It is not a matter of outward observation, but it is an inward process of transformation and development. If the people of the world would be more inclined to recognize that spiritual advancement is a process of inner transformation and participate in this process, and share with each other the different levels of higher knowledge from other cultures rather than merely accepting one particular religious dogma and rejecting all other forms of spiritual growth, then it becomes possible for all of humanity to be a united people. After all, a true religion respects whatever level of universal truth is found in any other culture and religion. Everyone can band together with a common cause of helping each other become enlightened, a universal religion based on hearing about and glorifying the Supreme. Every religion does this, so why not do it together? The only difference then would be whether people were theist or atheist, and atheists are simply those who have no spiritual experience or cannot fathom the depths of divine knowledge. Thus we must seek to unite these paths by finding the common source from which these have sprung, as I have tried to point out in my books, such as The Secret Teachings of the Vedas and The Universal Path to Enlightenment. When you find that source, you will find the doorway that leads to full realization of the absolute truth and the clear consciousness through which we can see that all living beings share the same immaterial or spiritual identity. Spiritually, we are all one family, and this level of consciousness becomes obvious that all temporary material differences are but superficialities. It is only people's own immature prejudice caused by their spiritual ignorance that stop people of the world from being united and cooperating together. Remembering that God is in everyone, and everyone is here by the will of God, and that God cares for all beings, you can then respect anyone. Jai, thank you very much. Namaste and Jai Shri Krishna.